Well, in the hustle and bustle that is January, one round finishes and another round starts the very next day. For those keeping score, round 16 is now finished. Round 17 starts tonight. So particularly for those of you who are playing Supercoach, you've only got a very short space of time to sort your trades out. I've just done mine, and I think Sam Wardenberg might be a bit of value this round as well. Anyway, we digress. This is NBL Now, your Thursday morning edition. I'm Jack Heverin. Derek Rucker, as always, joining me for our Thursday show. Derek, good to see you. And gee, can we just go back to that second quarter of Perth last night against Brisbane? My goodness.
They put it on them, 38 points in that quarter, and that turned the game. And I thought Brisbane did an admirable job in the first quarter, especially on the offensive end. They were tied at 27 at the end of the first. And Andrew Bogut and I are looking at each other like, is this possible? Knowing the craziness and the unpredictability and the variability throughout contests in the NBL. But, you know, Bryce Cotton, I don't know what more we can say about him, Jack. And I don't want the viewers to get, oh, Derek, can you get off Bryce's bandwagon, blah, blah, blah. But Jack, this is starting to be like, you can't miss it. And you have to watch Bryce when he's coming to town right now. That was the easiest 36 points I think I've seen in a number of years. And like, he changes games so rapidly, and the impact that he has from a confidence point of view onto his teammates is something that's very, very special.
I think that sentence there sums it up best, I think, with Bryce, Derek. You can't miss it. You've got to watch it at the moment. If you're Perth have got a bunch of home games coming up that we'll talk about in a second. But if Bryce was coming to your town, you'd want to get a ticket. You know, if you're a fan, you'd be making sure that you looked up when Perth were next playing. This is remarkable what we're seeing right now, and it's happening game in, game out.
And we've seen, you know, we're in the sports business. We watch everything, Jack. And we've seen Andrew Johns in the NRL dominate. We've seen Dustin Martin in the AFL put together performances and big moments that are just, you know, the legacy-like moments. And Bryce is doing something right now that I think, I'm not being trite, but I think this is going to be spoken about for decades to come. People will be like, do you remember that run Bryce was on? Because, Jack, they're winning games, too. They're devastating the league. This 2-game away road trip where they were at Tassie and then here in Brisbane, granted, those teams are beat up. But you still got to go out there and knock them off. And not only do they knock them off, they embarrass them.
So this is the thing with Perth now, Derek. I mean, you know, we're going to talk about Bryce's run, and I think you said it on Moments That Matter yesterday. Maybe this all culminates in a championship when it's all said and done. But they're putting themselves in the best position possible here, Perth. They had a stretch of games on the road because of venue availability with the tennis and all that sort of stuff. I think most teams in that situation would be happy to split them, go 500 across that run and turn around and come home. They've gone 6-1 on the road.
After getting off to a terrible start. And now they're above 500 on the road, and they're 70% at home. And with a bunch of home games to come, they're a real threat. And coming into the season, I must admit, I didn't like the construction of the team. I thought they were a bit thin up front. But Almontes fit in really well. He gives them a bit of a safety net if Doolittle is hurt or not performing, or Pender is hurt or not playing to his level. And I like the rotation that they have, Jack. I like the way their team is built. And Windler, we saw it last night, 16 points, got off to a great start. He's shooting the ball well. Perth are a real danger, and I think they match up pretty well, and not to diss the Sydney Kings or Melbourne United, but I think Perth match up really well against Illawarra.
Well, Derek, I think they've got a gear offensively that no one else has got. And we saw that again in that second quarter last night. You and I saw it in Tasmania on Sunday. And as good as Illawarra are and as structured as Illawarra are defensively, that's got to be a concern, doesn't it? That when Perth decides to flick the switch, they can put 30 plus on you in a quarter.
Now, several weeks ago, we did see Illawarra limit Bryce Cotton to break that 40-point streak that he was on. But I don't know now. It's a different team, Perth. I think since that time, they've grown as a group, and John really has them operating at a really high level. And I think they're really in tune with what they need to do to win games. And most importantly, they're healthy.
So from a positive story to a negative, and it's another one coming out of Adelaide, unfortunately, yesterday. All of our phones started buzzing sort of around mid-morning, lunchtime yesterday that something was going on with the 36ers. As always, Olgun Ulich at the forefront of the news breaking from espn.com.au dropped a story just before 3 o'clock Melbourne time yesterday. Substantial signs of disconnect between Mike Wells, the head coach, and Kendric Davis, their star point guard. It boiled over after the game against Illawarra on Monday, and Olgun goes on to report that a lot of the dispute was around Mike Wells' criticism of another player, Kendric Davis, coming to that player's defense, and things got a little heated from there. Now, there is some sensitivities. Mike Wells, we understand, has a family matter that's quite sensitive at the moment that we will leave alone. But, Derek, when you first saw this story yesterday, what did you think?
Jack, I thought the same thing you thought. Here we go again. And what really astounds me is they just had their best victory in years. They performed really well in front of their home crowd. It's a moment for them to all be elated and build some confidence off of what they just did. But I believe the friction started kind of late in that game between Kendric and head coach Mike Wells. And this is a friction that's been going on throughout the season. In the medical field, they call it a pre-existing condition. Well, this is pre-existing friction, all right? They do not like each other. It's evident. There's a problem, and there's no way of getting around it. But it kind of saddens me also because Kendric is an amazing player. He's so electric. And unlike Mike Wells, we've had discussions with him. He's a very engaging and enthusiastic head coach, and he wants to do well. So it saddens me. It's like when you see a couple that you're friends with both people and they can't make it work. And right now, I just think those two need to find space. A third party needs to come in and kind of moderate some discussions between the two of them. Because, Jack, there's less than a month left in the regular season. And Adelaide, we've heard Andrew Bogut say it on a regular basis. They're a team that could still win the championship. That's how talent-laden they are. But these two guys got to get on the right page. And again, why does this happen after a victory?
There are a couple of key points out of this, I thought. One was around the information coming out. And this is not the first time with Adelaide, not just this season, but in previous seasons as well. That would be a major concern if I was ownership and front office, is how quickly and how easily information is getting out from the club to the media.
Well, and this is the difficult aspect of our league that a lot of imports don't understand. We all know everyone. We have people in all locker rooms. And the moment you can come to terms with that aspect of the NBL, there are only 10 teams, Jack. There's only one game played at a time. And especially when it comes to Olgun Ulich has a lot of contacts. Yeah. That's his life. That's what he does. And if I had one piece of advice to Kendric, and I have great admiration for him, he's a tremendous player. I hope he can play in this league for a very long time. But maybe less time on Twitter trying to work out something with Olgun, and more time trying to work out your relationship with your coach. Because I think both of you have a lot to offer the league. You're playing really well under your coach. Mike Wells, you're doing something that's really good to help Kendric get in this position as a player. You guys need to be more professional, come together, and find a common ground for the sake of the Adelaide 36ers, because this could be a wasted season.
And the other aspect, Derek, and I agree with everything that you just said, is beyond this season, what does that look like? Because Adelaide have been quite public that they want to bring Kendric back. They've spoken about a multi-year deal and that they see him being, in many ways, the face of the team going forward. It feels very hard if you're Mike Wells in that situation when there's this desire to bring back the star point guard, but you and he can't get along. I feel like the coach is the loser in this situation, potentially.
Generally, that's the case in basketball. And when you have a guy as impactful as Kendric Davis, and it's so hard to find import players of his standard and get them to stay here, you want to hold on to them. And this is a guy who, in my eyes, could easily win 3 MVP awards. He's not even close to being in his prime. He's 4 or 5 years away from his prime, and he's putting up elite level numbers and impacting games in a highly positive way. So I just hope that they can figure it out. And also, you know what? If you put that tweet out there, don't delete it. Let's live with it. Let's go with it. You know what? That's what I said. And Kendric's a very strong guy. Kendric, leave that tweet out there. Again, you went at Olgan earlier in the year, in the season, and you kind of proved your point. Prove your point again. Just keep proving your point.
From one emotional point guard to another, Parker Jackson-Cartwright's back tonight.
Hello. Man, it seems like he's been gone for 3 months. And, you know, Parker, I'm sure he can't wait to get out there. And it's a big game. New Zealand still have a mathematical chance of qualifying for the postseason. And they can do a lot of damage to Tasmania. This is a massive game. And Parker, we know his talent level. And I'm sure he's going to be amped up to kind of get his name back in a lot of the All-NBL conversations and the MVP conversations. Is there time for him to be considered for those awards? I don't know, but he'll have to be devastatingly good when he gets back. And the other thing I want to see is whether he can incorporate Taco Fall and bring the best out of Taco, because, you know, I'm sympathetic towards Taco. I want him to do well. So I think this is his best avenue, playing off of Parker.
They play tonight against Tasmania in New Zealand. They're better than a sneaky chance, aren't they, tonight, the Breakers?
I've got them winning this game. Tasmania are beat up. I think there may be some emotional scarring coming off the back of that Perth loss down in Hobart. So I think Tassie are in for tough times. I think they got to win 3 more games to qualify, and New Zealand pretty much can only afford to drop 1 game to give themselves a legitimate chance to make the play-in.
Before we finish up, I want to jump ahead to Friday, mainly because it's something that you spoke about on the weekend and on Monday as well on Moments That Matter, around Cairns. They travel to Brisbane to play the Bullets on Friday night. I'll be doing this game, as will you. You've called this is Cairns' summer shootout game, and you've called this as a real opportunity for Cairns to surprise the rest of the competition. And I've got to say, Derek, after watching Brisbane last night, it makes me think that there's a lot more credence to what you're saying here.
I agree. And right now the number sits at 105. That was Perth down in Tasmania on Sunday. Cairns can go over 105 easily against Brisbane, because Brisbane haven't looked like they want to necessarily slow down the pace. So there should be plenty of shots on offer. Perth ran up a big score last night. Now, Cairns don't have Perth's offensive firepower. They can't produce those numbers consistently. But in a one-off situation, you know, I thought they were decent the other night against Southeast Melbourne. They got close to 100. But in a game in which they know they really have to go for it, and I think Coach Adam Ford will just let it happen. Just go for it, guys. If there's anything to take from this season, if we can salvage anything out of this season, let's win this damn summer shootout and get some cake for our efforts.
I think we're due one more Rob Edwards explosion, aren't we? We haven't seen it since the first 5 or 6 rounds of the season. This is the perfect situation for him.
And Wardenberg will have that game under his belt from the other night. So I think Cairns coming to this one really primed to put up a big score. And we know Brisbane, again, they have a lot of injury clouds. So I'm not sure how resistant they're going to be on the defensive end.
I'm looking forward to that one. Reminder, New Zealand, Tasmania tonight, an early game as well, 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, but check your local guides. So a little earlier start if you're trying to plan your Thursday as well. Derek, you enjoy your Thursday wherever in this wonderful world of ours you are, and we'll see you tomorrow night for Brisbane and Cairns.
All right, Jack, see you then.
Thanks for joining us on NBL Now. And don't forget as well, the ladder predictor is now live at nbl.com.au. I spent about an hour on that thing yesterday, and there's a world where Perth could finish top 2. So for Wildcats fans, jump on and do your ladder predictor as well. We'll catch you tomorrow.